Why you stay on their mind even in silence. You possess control over your thoughts and emotions, rather than the circumstances that occur around you. Acknowledge this truth, and you will discover a source of inner strength. This wisdom comes from Marcus Aurelius. People may not express their feelings directly. They might never send you a message. They could share cheerful selfies with friends, putting on a facade of happiness. They may appear vibrant and lively on the surface. However, your presence still resonates in their moments of silence. This is a reality they may not openly share, and it's something they might be hesitant to confront. The uncomfortable truth is that the more they project an image of joy, the more you linger in their thoughts, even when they are quiet. This is not a figment of your imagination, nor is it a matter of pride, it is a genuine experience. Today, we will explore the reasons why you continue to occupy their thoughts, even when they seem distant. Now, picture this scenario: you enter a room that you haven't visited in many years. Everything looks familiar, the same walls, the same scent in the air, and the old photographs still resting on the shelf. It's as if a tidal wave of memories crashes over you, unexpectedly and without warning. You're not even trying to recall the past, but the memories linger, refusing to be erased. That's the impact you've had on others. You may have moved on, but your presence has left an indelible mark on their lives, in places they never even knew existed. You see, my friends, people often deceive themselves, their friends, and the world at large. But there's one thing they can't deceive: silence. Silence is the ultimate witness, unflinching and unbiased. It doesn't care about pride or social media status. It simply observes, waits, and remembers. When the noise and distractions fade away, you're still there, occupying a space in their minds, rent-free. They might tell their friends they've moved on, post about their new adventures, or flirt with someone new. But in the still of the night, at 2 a.m., when the likes and comments have stopped rolling in and their smile has nothing left to prove, they're not thinking about the noise. They're thinking about the one person who didn't need all the fanfare to be unforgettable. You. And that's what this message is about. It's not about feeding our egos or seeking validation. It's about the quiet, lasting impact we have on others, long after we're gone. It's not about winning that heartbreak. It's about understanding why your presence feels so lingering. Because it was real. Because it was calm. Because it didn't need attention. It gave space without asking for it. And when that kind of quiet energy fades, it becomes noticeable in ways words can't fully capture. Now, here's the truth we're going to unravel today. Just because they're silent doesn't mean they've forgotten you. Let's break that myth now. Because silence, when someone truly doesn't care, feels like peace. But silence that comes after deep connection feels like a heavy burden. It's the weight of a memory that never wants to be remembered but can't be erased. And you, my friend, became that memory. Not because you shouted your worth, but because you walked through it. As Seneca once said, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. But in your case, to stay silent was the act of strength. While they expected noise, you offered stillness. While they wanted to chase, you provided clarity. Remember those times when you felt like you were being deliberately overlooked? Like someone was trying their hardest to act as if you simply didn't exist? Well, the truth is, you've likely become a persistent thought, one that lingers and disrupts their peace of mind. If you've ever found yourself in quiet contemplation, wondering, do I even cross their mind anymore, the answer is almost certainly yes. It's not just a fleeting thought either. More than that, they're unconsciously comparing every new experience, every fresh moment, to the quiet absence you left behind. Think of it like this: your impact was so profound, so significant, that it created a void, a benchmark against which everything else is now judged. This isn't random chance, this is present star. And when that presence is grounded in inner peace and authenticity, it becomes truly unforgettable. Let's affirm this together. Declare it out loud, and share it so everyone understands the power you hold. I carry presence. 3 simple words. Yet, they resonate far more powerfully than any message you might have considered sending, any explanation you held back from giving. Stick with me, because what I'm about to share will reveal just how deeply this connection runs. First and foremost, let's understand a crucial distinction: silence is not synonymous with peace. Often, it's a cleverly disguised inner turmoil. As the great Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Imagine them now, endlessly scrolling through social media, projecting an image of utter nonchalance. They're smiling in group photos, politely nodding in conversations, expertly playing the part of someone who couldn't be less affected. And then, your name unexpectedly surfaces. They casually shrug, offer a dismissive laugh, and claim they haven't given you a second thought in ages. It's a performance, designed to mask the underlying truth. Let's face it, there's a reality that many prefer to overlook. Silence doesn't always equate to tranquility. In fact, it can often resemble a battleground where your name lingers like a haunting presence that refuses to fade away. Imagine being in a space that appears orderly on the surface, yet every drawer is filled with disarray. Their outward calmness may suggest control, but internally, it's a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. You see, my friend, the silence that follows a genuine connection is anything but simple. It carries a significant weight, filled with questions, cherished memories, lingering what-ifs, and regrets that resonate louder than any spoken word. They may not openly share the turmoil brewing in their minds, but you remain a constant echo in the quieter moments of their day, where no one else can see. Picture this scenario: they're driving in their car, music playing softly in the background. It's the same song that once accompanied your shared laughter during aimless drives. Yet now, that familiar rhythm feels altered, burdened, and devoid of the joy it once held. Suddenly, your name resurfaces in their thoughts, not through a text or a call, but through the power of memory, through the stillness, and through a flashback to everything that once felt like home. This is the essence of true presence. It doesn't require noise to exist. It thrives in the silences between words. You might be wondering, if I meant so much to them, why haven't they reached out? That's a great question. Let's delve into this topic. People often excel at putting on a facade, particularly when their pride is at stake. When expressing emotions feels like a sign of weakness, many choose to remain silent. They believe that by not saying anything, they somehow emerge victorious. However, what they fail to understand is that silence can become a form of imprisonment, especially when their thoughts are relentless. A common misconception that many people hold is this: if I avoid discussing it, it won't impact me. This belief is misguided. What they perceive as strength is actually a form of suppression. Suppressing feelings does not make them disappear, it merely postpones their emergence. You might be able to evade a conversation, but you cannot escape your own thoughts. This is the reason behind their silence. It's not that they lack feelings, rather, they are overwhelmed by them. They fear that you might still have influence over their emotions, even now. As the philosopher Seneca wisely stated, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. This encapsulates the struggle they face internally. In the quiet moments of separation, their minds begin to weave narratives about your current life, what you might be doing, who you're spending time with, and whether you found greater happiness without them. The silence, once a tool of control, now feels like a form of punishment. This is the unseen storm, paradoxically born from your own composure. Yet, it is here that your true strength shines. You chose not to react, not to send that final message in search of a response, and not to pursue. Instead, you embraced the silence, finding comfort in your own stillness. In doing so, you became unforgettable, not through effort, but through restraint. This distinction separates those who manipulate from those who stand firm in their principles. You are not here to plead or decipher conflicting messages. Your purpose is to remain grounded, for the person who can endure silence without fear wields genuine power. The fear of being misunderstood no longer holds you back, you've accepted it as part of the journey. This is the essence of Stoicism, understanding that true strength lies not in the volume of your voice, but in the quiet resolve of your actions. It's about being steadfast, not reactive, and finding power in your ability to remain unshaken. It's all about how gracefully you handle the quiet moments. So, the next time you find yourself in complete silence, remember that silence doesn't conceal the truth, it merely delays its revelation. In time, everything comes to light. If you're the thought they try to avoid, you've already made an indelible impression. Join me in writing this down in the comments section, so others can see they're not alone in feeling this way. Trust in the power of silence. Write it, share it, and feel it deeply. This isn't for anyone else, it's for you to remind yourself that your worth isn't defined by noise. Your mere presence is impactful, even when you're not speaking. Stick around, because what's coming next will demonstrate how your quiet strength has become the benchmark they can't help but measure everything against. Secondly, your influence is woven into their daily routines, not just their words. Don't waste any more time debating what makes a good person. Just be one. As Marcus Aurelius said, sometimes people say nothing, not a word, no calls, no texts, no confessions. But you're still there, like a shadow seamlessly integrated into the fabric of their lives. Just like background music that keeps playing even when they try to turn it off, the impact of a genuine presence is enduring. It transcends mere words. Whether they acknowledge it or not, you remain ingrained in their routines, not just their past. It's evident in how they skip a particular song on their playlist, the one that used to accompany moments of shared silence, conveying everything unspoken. It's in the pause before they enter a place you both frequented. It's in the late-night glances at their phone, secretly hoping, perhaps expecting to see your name pop up, only to dismiss it as insignificant. Yet, it mattered. It still does. True connections go beyond touching hearts, they shape behaviors. Consider this, my friend, how many individuals pass through someone's life leaving no trace? Many. Most. Because most are easily forgotten. They strive too hard to be noticed and end up fading into obscurity. But not you. You didn't clamor for attention. You simply showed up consistently, calmly, and authentically. That's why you are more than a mere memory. Even now, they carry you with them in their everyday actions, whether they realize it or not. Let me set the scene for you. Picture this, they are standing in front of the mirror, brushing their teeth. Same old routine, same bathroom, same reflection staring back at them. But something feels off. The air seems colder, heavier somehow. There's an emptiness lingering there, and it isn't just your absence, it's more than that. It's the void left by your energy, the way you brought warmth and life into even the simplest moments. Now, without it, everything feels quieter, lonelier. Fast forward to the gym. They're lifting weights, trying to sweat out frustration, attempting to rebuild what they think is strength. But instead of focusing on the burn in their muscles or counting representatives, their mind wanders elsewhere. They find themselves thinking about how you moved through life, with such poise, calmness, and purpose. How did you manage to stay so centered? So unshakable? That curiosity gnawing at them? It's not random or fleeting. No, it's a trace, a remnant of you. A ghost of sorts, but one that lingers in their thoughts rather than their surroundings. Here's the thing, most people believe that if they stop talking about someone, it means they've let go, moved on. But here's the truth, they couldn't be more wrong. The brain doesn't function like that, especially when emotions are involved. You see, the subconscious mind doesn't wait for permission to feel. It doesn't ask for approval before remembering. Instead, it holds on to whatever made a lasting impression. And let me tell you, you, my friend, left an imprint so profound that it's woven itself into their very being, almost like muscle memory. Like the kind of habit that sticks around long after the initial effort has faded. Now, here's where things get interesting. They may not be sharing their thoughts with their friends or broadcasting their feelings on social media, yet, on a deeper level, you continue to shape their actions, reactions, and comparisons. Your presence in their life has transcended mere acquaintance, you have become a significant reference point for them. This kind of influence is not something that can simply be ignored or silenced. You might wonder why they can't just express their feelings openly. The reason lies in the nature of honesty, it requires vulnerability. To be honest would mean acknowledging that you hold a more important place in their lives than their ego would like to admit. It would involve confronting a painful truth, they have lost something that they still keenly feel the absence of every single day. However, their silence should not be mistaken for strength. It is, in fact, a manifestation of fear disguised as control. As Epictetus wisely stated, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. This is precisely what you have done. You did not need to preach your worth, instead, you demonstrated it through your actions. You didn't market yourself, you simply existed as your authentic self, grounded, composed, and fully present. Ironically, this understated presence resonates more powerfully now than it ever has before. Let's delve into the essence of what makes you truly remarkable. It wasn't an attempt to stand out, but rather a refusal to conform to the conventional patterns that others follow blindly. You didn't engage in social media for validation, nor did you send messages to gauge your significance. You didn't pursue approval to measure your self-worth. Instead, you chose to exist authentically, bearing your true self to the world. In a society saturated with artificiality and pretense, sincerity stands out like a beacon, which is precisely why you remain on their minds. Not because you haunt them, but because their surroundings constantly evoke memories of someone irreplaceable. Often, they're unaware that it's you they recall, but your influence is evident in their decisions, responses, and routines. Your imprint is indelibly etched within them, not through manipulation, but through genuine interactions. You led a life so impactful that your departure resonates more profoundly than your presence ever could. Embrace this power with elegance. You don't need to amplify your voice to leave a lasting impression. You don't have to extend a hand to maintain relevance. All that's required is to persist on your path with determination, calmness, and purpose. When your spirit intertwines with another's rhythm, it cannot be erased. They may attempt to divert their attention, but the body, heart, and mind retain the memory. Join me in expressing this thought, and feel free to share it in the comments if it resonates with your own experiences. My presence has become a familiar aspect of life. Allow it to be seen. Let the world experience it. There is someone out there who needs to be reminded that silence does not equate to forgetting. Often, it signifies a deep remembrance that is too intense to articulate. Stay with me, as in the next section, we will explore the moment they realized you were no longer pursuing them, and how this realization marked the onset of their internal turmoil. Point number 3, your decision not to chase is what continues to haunt them. As the philosopher Epictetus wisely stated, he who is not a slave to his emotions is truly free. They anticipated a response from you. Let's be clear about this, they expected you to react, to reach out multiple times, to call, or to inquire about the situation. They thought you would plead for clarity, strive for closure, and demonstrate your value through words and desperation. But you didn't do any of that. You chose not to chase after them. You didn't put on a show, nor did you fall apart. This very choice is precisely why they can't stop thinking about you. You see, many individuals are accustomed to certain patterns in relationships. Conflict erupts, and someone inevitably chases after the other. There's a disagreement, and often, a person ends up apologizing even when they weren't at fault, just to restore peace. Then comes the silence, heavy and uncomfortable, until someone finally speaks up, not necessarily to resolve things, but simply to feel acknowledged. This cycle becomes their norm. Attention and connection are only given when emotions run high and chaos is present. But then you entered the picture. You brought a sense of calm, clarity, and quiet strength. Instead of getting swept up in the emotional whirlwind, you remained composed and unshaken. You didn't add fuel to the fire, you simply stepped out of the turmoil, carrying a sense of tranquility and self-assurance. That response was so unexpected that it unsettled them. Picture this, they strike a match and toss it at you, fully expecting you to ignite and react as usual. But instead of catching fire, you simply fade away, like mist dissolving in the air. That's how it felt to them. They tried the same old tactics, but this time, the usual reactions didn't follow. You weren't running after them or getting caught up in the drama. You made a conscious choice to prioritize your own well-being. This stark difference, your calm in the face of chaos, forced them to reconsider everything they believed about control and influence. Because, at the heart of it, here's the real lesson: sometimes, the most powerful response is not to react at all. When you've spent so long being the steady flame in someone else's life, your decision to stop orbiting their energy isn't an act of rejection. It's a quiet rebellion, a declaration that your self-worth no longer hinges on their validation. This shift stuns them, not because they'll admit it, but because it cracks the fragile mirror they use to see themselves. Your silence becomes a seismic event for them. They'll stare at their phone, half hoping to see your name pop up, then act like they never looked. They'll reopen old conversations just to close them again, eyes lingering on words they claim to forget. They'll interrogate mutual friends about your weekend plans, not out of genuine curiosity, but because a part of them is screaming, "Why didn't they come crawling back?" Here's the uncomfortable truth: many people confuse being pursued with being loved. They've been conditioned to believe that someone's attention is proof of their value. But this is a broken script. When someone chases, it often reveals their own emotional wounds outweighing their ability to set healthy boundaries. You, however, chose a different path. You stopped chasing not out of cruelty, but because you've learned that chasing someone who walks away is a form of self-abandonment. You're building a life where your presence is a choice, not a reaction. That's not cold, it's courageous. Let's debunk a common misconception, the idea that if someone truly mattered to you, you'd fight to keep them in your life. Not true. If they truly mattered, you'd respect their boundaries and prioritize your own emotional well-being. A person who values self-respect doesn't need to control another person's emotions to feel complete. Instead, they've learned that self-respect is a quiet yet powerful force that can have a lasting impact. As the ancient philosopher Marcus Aurelius so eloquently put it, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. You didn't resort to petty games or mirror their silence with passive aggression. Instead, you used their distance as an opportunity to reflect, gain clarity, and transform. You didn't beg for love or validation, you became the kind of love that doesn't need to beg. And now, that decision is haunting them, not because you hurt them, but because you didn't need them to feel whole. What they can't process is that someone could love them deeply and still walk away with dignity. That someone could feel the loss, the pull, and the ache, yet still choose not to return. That's the echo that's haunting them, and it's what they can't silence. You didn't chase after them, and now that's what's driving them to confront their own emotions and insecurities. They once believed that remaining silent was a form of control. However, that silence has now become a burden they must bear. It serves as a reflection they choose to ignore. If they truly felt indifferent, if you genuinely held no significance in their lives, they wouldn't experience these feelings. It wouldn't hurt them to witness your success. They wouldn't be troubled by the fact that you managed to stay strong and didn't crumble under pressure, yet it does affect them. This discomfort they feel is not merely resentment, it signifies a moment of realization. You have become an unexpected source of insight for them. Therefore, do not doubt yourself. Avoid questioning whether you should have expressed more, taken further action, or lingered longer. The reality is that you imparted a lesson to them that few have had the bravery to teach. You showed them what it means to prioritize self-respect over the confusion of others. If this resonates with you, feel free to echo it in the comments. I don't pursue, I embrace tranquility. Allow them to witness this. Permit yourself to experience it. Let the surrounding world understand that silence is not a sign of weakness, rather, it embodies wisdom. Stay with me, as we are about to explore how your calmness has now set a benchmark against which others are measured, even if they are not yet aware of it. Let's move on to point number 4, they tend to measure everyone else against the one who quietly exited their life. If you find yourself troubled by something external, remember that the discomfort does not stem from the situation itself, but rather from your perception of it. This perception is something you can change at any moment, as noted by Marcus Aurelius. They have moved on, right? That's the narrative they will share, the posts they will make, and the way they will flaunt their new life as if it were a trophy. However, what they won't openly admit is that every new relationship they form is inevitably cast in your shadow. Initially, they may not even recognize this influence. This is because comparison often operates beneath the surface, it is not always a conscious thought. It sneaks in quietly, much like a soft whisper in a bustling room. It lingers, reminiscent of your fragrance that still clings to the jacket they left hanging in their closet. You didn't pursue them, you didn't raise your voice, and you certainly didn't create a scene. Instead, you chose to let go with grace and silence. In a world that constantly craves attention and values performance above all else, choosing to step away quietly leaves a unique mark that often goes unnoticed but sets a new standard. When someone exits with grace, calmness, and inner peace, it unintentionally highlights the noise created by others. Picture this scenario: you meet someone new, and there's an immediate spark, excitement, curiosity, and the possibility of something meaningful. However, partway through your interaction, you start to notice things like laughter that seems overly loud, behavior that feels unnatural or forced, or a desperate need for approval that you never required. Suddenly, without even being physically present, you become a silent presence, a subtle contrast, an unspoken measure, a gentle reminder. It makes the question arise: why does this interaction not feel the same as before? This isn't about the new person doing anything wrong, rather, it's because you behave differently. You didn't create drama, didn't try to dazzle or win favor with excessive flattery or grand gestures. Instead, you simply showed up as your genuine self, steady, authentic, and calm. And what's important about authenticity is that it doesn't disappear just because you're no longer there. In fact, when genuine presence is absent, the artificial and insincere become even more noticeable, louder, and harder to ignore. This is why comparisons happen, because realness leaves an enduring impression that outshines all the noise. It isn't by choice, but rather something that happens without thinking, almost like a reflex. The mind naturally recalls tranquility, most especially once it has dealt with disorder. Likewise, the heart longs for calmness, particularly after periods filled with noise and confusion. People don't want to keep being drawn toward new faces or trying to connect with others after you. It's not about weakness, but they simply can't help themselves. In time, you've become the benchmark for them, the filter through which they now see the world. That filter makes everything else appear blurry or off-kilter compared to what they once knew. They remember how you never raised your voice, even when everything inside them was spinning out of control. They recall your calmness when they distanced themselves, and how you never fought to win them over. Instead, you just stood firm in your own worth, as if your value were unquestionable. Now, every loud personality, every person who's trying too hard, and every whirlwind romance seem like puzzle pieces that simply don't belong, trying to fit into a spot that only your steady presence could truly fill. The irony? They might have once criticized you for being too calm, too reserved, or for reacting too slowly to things. But now they deeply miss that very steadiness. What once seemed plain or unexciting to their overstimulated emotions now feels like the only true peace they can't seem to find anywhere else. Without realizing it, you became the remedy to a need they didn't know they had. As Seneca once said, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a person perfected without trials. In their journey, you became that friction they didn't fully appreciate at the time, the mirror they didn't want to look into, yet you helped reveal their own possibilities. Now that they have returned to the world, they are attempting to find a new sense of peace after leaving a previous sense of calm behind. Along this journey, they often encounter individuals who talk extensively yet say little of real substance, who act more than they genuinely mean, offering superficial attention without deep understanding, and creating noise instead of true presence. What they may not realize is that, in their earlier interactions, they inadvertently trained themselves to desire what you originally offered, by rejecting it prematurely. Because of this, there's no need for you to wonder if your presence had an impact. It certainly did. And there's no need to wonder if they are thinking about you. They are, not through direct messages or by calling your name, but through subconscious comparisons. And these comparisons are definitely loud in their minds. They reflect on how you listened with patience, how you didn't rush to fix everything, but instead created space for them to work through their feelings. They remember how you gave freely, without expecting praise or recognition. That kind of genuine intention and energy is rare, almost divine. Now, they are beginning to see it, not through spoken words but through the void that remains when your presence is gone. So, if you've ever questioned whether they truly appreciated what you brought into their life, let me assure you, yes, they do. They realize it every time someone tries to emulate what you naturally were, without even trying. Say this aloud with me, and share it in the comments to remind someone who has forgotten their own strength: I became the standard. Let them feel that truth. Allow yourself to truly experience your emotions. When you carry yourself with a sense of quiet dignity, there is no need to engage in competition. You become the person that others remember when they find themselves measuring against everyone else. Stay with me, as we will soon explore how your personal growth has become a reflection for others, and why this reflection is something they are still not prepared to confront. To elaborate on point number 5, you have turned into a mirror, and what they see in that mirror is not pleasing to them. A person achieves mastery over the world by first mastering themselves. They believed that walking away would provide them with closure. They thought that remaining silent would grant them freedom. However, here's the crucial insight that they were never informed about: genuine growth in another individual does not lead to peace if you have not also experienced growth yourself. Now, as they scroll through social media, hear your name mentioned in conversations, or sneak a glance at the life you are creating, they are confronted with an unexpected reality. They see a reflection, not of you as a person, but of what they failed to become while they were alongside you. That realization is what truly hurts. Your silence did not simply vanish, it evolved into something more profound. It transformed into discipline, focus, and a radiant glow that you now possess. With every step you take forward, every moment you hold your head high, and every bit of tranquility you embody, you become a mirror for them. This is a reflection they did not ask for, yet one they find impossible to ignore. Picture this scenario. Imagine yourself walking past a glass window, not because you're seeking out your reflection, but simply continuing on your way. Yet there it is, your image perfectly clear and undisturbed. Unbeknownst to you, someone on the other side of the glass is watching closely, and in your calm demeanor they see a reflection of the person they once were. They witness a version of themselves that never took the necessary steps to evolve and grow. Suddenly, your quiet composure becomes undeniable evidence of progress, while your silence speaks powerfully of inner strength. Every step you take forward subtly reminds them of their own stagnant state, a life hesitating to move forward and change. They likely never expected this outcome. Perhaps they assumed you would remain stuck, overwhelmed, heartbroken, and caught in an endless spiral of despair. Instead, against all odds, you chose a different path. You took your pain, harnessed it, and redirected it as a clear beacon of purpose and determination. Now, as you move through life with clarity and a renewed sense of direction, they are left with one haunting question: why didn't I do the same? This question marks the start of a deep self-reflection, where the unmistakable truth is revealed in the mirror of your progress. This transformation is not about seeking attention or inciting jealousy. It isn't a display meant to provoke bitterness, rather, it is a natural result of turning hardship into strength. By embracing your journey with grace and clarity, you inadvertently expose the gap between who they are and who they never dared to become. Your path, illuminated by self-improvement and resilience, serves as a gentle yet undeniable reminder of the transformative power of embracing change. Your progress continues to challenge them. Not because you're deliberately flaunting it, but because your ascent uniquely exposes everything they've been avoiding. You are no longer the person who would settle for crumbs or question your worth simply because someone else failed to recognize it. The old version of you, the one who doubted themselves or sought validation from others, is gone. What remains is someone they can no longer reach, not because you are intentionally blocking them, but because you have simply ascended to a higher level. That difference is like a mirror reflecting their shortcomings, and it can be painful. People often say, if you love someone, let them go. Yet, what's seldom mentioned is that if the other person hasn't grown, your act of granting freedom may instead serve as a reflection of their stagnation, rather than as genuine peace. Seneca once remarked, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Perhaps this is what they realize now, that they spent so much time trying to hold on to control, instead of investing in their growth. Meanwhile, you dedicated your time to developing self-discipline and emotional mastery, while they wasted theirs on emotional battles. Now, they see the results not just through your words, but through your eyes. Not in your social media posts, but in your overall aura. Not in a message, but in the way you carry yourself. They didn't expect silence to feel so powerful or deafening, yet that's exactly what it has become, so silent that it speaks volumes. It's not that you're haunting them, rather, their internal struggles are louder than they anticipated, and you symbolize everything they have yet to face. Their ego encouraged them to walk away, while their pride insisted they should not look back. However, in moments of quiet reflection, all they can see is the person you have become in their absence. This is the reason they hesitate to reach out and remain in the background. It's not merely about missing you, it's also about the shame they feel when confronted with the individual they left behind, someone they now find difficult to reconnect with. Your calmness has transformed into their unease, and your personal growth has become a source of discomfort for them. Your tranquility serves as a reminder that they missed the opportunity to evolve into their best selves when they had the chance. Therefore, continue on your path. Do not diminish your achievements or tone down your brilliance just to spare someone else's feelings, as your radiance is not meant to alleviate their regrets. Instead, it is intended to honor your resilience. I encourage you to affirm this and share it in the comments so that others who have been criticized for their growth can rise alongside you. I have become a reflection. Show them. Show yourself. Have you ever wondered why some people struggle to communicate their true feelings? It's not about judging others, it's about embodying honesty, even when that truth feels uncomfortable. Stick with me, because what I'll share next reveals why their quietness isn't self-assurance. Instead, it's their ego shielding a heart that still holds onto memories of you more profoundly than they'd ever admit. Point 6. Their ego muffles the message their heart longs to send. As the philosopher Epictetus wisely said, you can't start learning until you admit you don't have all the answers. Let's be clear, they do want to reconnect. The idea lingers in their mind more often than they'd ever acknowledge. Picture this, their hands pause over their phone, they sneak a glance at your social media only to exit seconds later. The message goes unsent. Not from indifference, but because their ego barges in like an overprotective guard, arms folded, blocking the exit to a vulnerability they're too proud to enter. Their heart? It's persistent. It replays shared laughter, lingers on conversations you've moved past, and daydreams about unresolved possibilities. But their ego shouts over it, demanding, don't cave first. Don't seem fragile. Don't give them the satisfaction of knowing you still care. Here's the twist, what looks like coldness is really a battle between their pride and their unspoken emotions. The ego, while trying to protect them, accidentally becomes the very barrier to healing or reconciliation. In moments of quiet, they find themselves sitting in silence. This isn't a sign that they've moved on, rather, it's their pride leading them to believe that remaining silent is a demonstration of strength. However, what they fail to recognize is that pride, while it may seem assertive, is ultimately a lonely companion. Although their ego may triumph in maintaining this silence, it never brings about true peace. You have become a conundrum they cannot figure out. In the midst of turmoil, you remained composed, during the fiercest storms, you stood firm. Now, in their moments of solitude, after the likes on social media have faded, after the stories they told have lost their relevance, and after the distractions that once captivated them have lost their allure, they find themselves thinking of you. This isn't something they intended, rather, it's because you have become a presence that their ego was unprepared to encounter. They were accustomed to dramatic reactions, to outbursts, and to pleas for attention. But you chose a different path. You responded with silence, with dignity, and with a stillness that resonated more profoundly than any words could express. Now, they are at a loss for how to reconnect with you. The person they once knew is not the same as the individual who stands before them now. You have transformed. You have matured. You no longer operate on emotional autopilot, you are fully aware of your surroundings and your feelings. You no longer pursue ambiguous signals or try to interpret vague hints. Instead, you remain grounded. When someone hasn't come to terms with their own self-reflection, stillness can be a daunting experience. Let's debunk the myth right now. The myth they're perpetuating to themselves and others is that they don't care. But that's just a facade, a scripted response. In the quiet moments, when the mask slips, their heart whispers the truth. Guilt and regret start to seep in, but before they can escape, their ego steps in, suppressing them once again. This is the internal battle they're fighting, a war between being vulnerable and maintaining a perfect image. And, my friend, you're caught in the crossfire. They might watch your stories, but never hit the like button. They might ask mutual friends about you, but pretend it's just small talk. They might walk past you, expressionless, but with a racing heart. Don't be fooled, that's not detachment, that's ego, that's fear masquerading as confidence. True strength does not require pretense or disguise. It does not shy away from speaking up, especially in challenging situations. It embraces honesty, even when pride feels vulnerable and hesitant. The philosopher Marcus Aurelius wisely stated, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This principle serves as a guiding star for your life, shaping a mindset that distinguishes you from others. While many are focused on maintaining appearances and calculating their actions, you choose to live authentically in truth. This authenticity is why they struggle to connect with you. Genuine strength does not engage in superficial performances. You have remained steadfast, you have not wavered or succumbed to emotional pitfalls. This resilience is what has shifted the dynamics in your favor. You have transitioned from reacting out of hurt to responding from a place of healing. This shift in energy reveals the vulnerabilities of those who continue to mask their feelings. So, it's not that they're indifferent, rather, they are caught in their own facade. Here's the thing, their ego is deeply afraid of what might happen if they acknowledge the truth. Because when they reach out, there's a risk of encountering a version of you who no longer depends on their approval. And that kind of understanding? It's the kind that can keep someone awake at night, reflecting deeply. But here's the thing about you, you're not here to compete with their ego. You're not here to bring your energy down to match their uncertainty. You're not here to force anything into being. Instead, you're here to stay grounded, to remain silent, not out of resentment, but out of self-control. Because your inner peace is more valuable than being chosen by someone who won't be honest with themselves. Say this with me and write it in the comments as a reminder of the person you've become. I choose peace over pride. Let this affirmation resonate deeply within you. Let it become your guiding principle, because in a world where everyone is trying so hard to perform, you've become someone who simply exists authentically. Keep walking this path with me, because what's coming next will show you exactly how your growth didn't just challenge their self-reflection, it made them question everything they thought they'd left behind. Number 7, your growth reminds them of what they've lost. As Epictetus once said, the greater the difficulty, the more glory in overcoming it. They assumed you'd stay the same forever. Let that sink in for a moment. They believed you'd wait. But here you are, growing, evolving, and becoming a version of yourself that they never saw coming. You might have thought that you would remain trapped in the past version of yourself that they left behind, stuck in a state of heartbreak and lingering self-doubt, waiting for a message that would never arrive. However, what they failed to anticipate was your personal growth and transformation. They did not foresee your ability to rise above the challenges. Now that you have evolved, they are observing you from a distance, with a sense of caution and curiosity. Their interest is not born out of happiness for your achievements, but rather because your progress serves as a stark reminder of what they neglected, what they underestimated, and ultimately, what they chose to walk away from. They find themselves scrolling through your social media updates, hearing murmurs from mutual acquaintances, and sensing a shift in your energy. Inside, they feel a tightening sensation because you have emerged as a more composed, clearer, and stronger individual. You are no longer reacting impulsively or reaching out for validation, instead, you are simply embracing your true self. Each new milestone you achieve stands as a quiet testament to the fact that they were not present to witness this remarkable version of you. Picture standing before a mirror that reflects not your current self, but the person you were once too afraid to become. This is how your existence resonates with them now. It's not that you are flaunting your success in their faces, rather, you have quietly transformed into everything they once claimed to desire. And that realization is painful for them. It's a painful reality that some people aren't ready to accept the growth and transformation that others undergo. They struggle to come to terms with the fact that their absence has not hindered, but rather, has empowered the person they left behind. This is because they were so focused on their own expectations and desires that they failed to recognize the potential that was always present within the other individual. The truth is, most people want to be remembered and missed. They crave the idea that their departure has left a void so profound that it has halted the progress of those they left behind. However, what truly shakes them is witnessing the person they abandoned fill the space they vacated with strength, purpose, and peace. This is not a result of revenge or a desire to prove a point, but rather a testament to the resilience and determination of the individual who has chosen to reclaim themselves. The concept of healing is often touted as a personal journey, but what is often overlooked is the fact that one person's healing can sometimes become a trigger for another. This is not because the person who has healed has intentionally sought to cause harm, but rather because the individual who has been left behind has an expectation that the person they abandoned will need them in order to evolve. When this expectation is not met, it can lead to an internal earthquake, as the person struggles to come to terms with their own limitations and the fact that they were not as essential to the other person's growth as they thought. The most striking aspect of this phenomenon is the way in which the person who has healed presents themselves to the world. They exude a sense of confidence, discipline, and calm that was not present before. Their words and actions are no longer driven by a need to prove themselves, but rather by a sense of self-assurance and purpose. This presence, this stillness, can be unsettling for those who have been left behind, not because the person who has healed is flaunting their growth, but because they know deep down that they grew in the very space that was left vacant by their absence. Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." You didn't shy away from pain, instead, you embraced it. You transformed your solitude into a training ground, your heartbreak into resistance, and your silence into a source of discipline. While others were preoccupied with distractions, you were busy rebuilding yourself. While they were pretending not to care, you were learning to care more deeply, beginning with yourself. Now, they feel not envy, but a sense of loss, because you've become the person they never believed you could be. They find it difficult to approach you, not because you're cold, but because you've evolved in ways that no longer resonate with their confusion. That's the essence of real growth. It creates a distance, even in silence. You're no longer the same person emotionally or energetically. You've moved beyond the identity that once needed them. This shift is the reason they think of you during quiet moments, when they're with someone new who doesn't speak or listen like you, or stand the way you did. Rest assured, they've noticed every post, every success, and every subtle display of your focus. These are reminders of what they left behind. Not because you were trying to prove anything, but because you decided to become everything for yourself. If this resonates with you, I invite you to say this with me: I grow in silence, not for show. Share this in the comments if it reflects your truth. Let this be your guiding anthem, resonating beyond mere words. When you evolve openly, without ever needing to raise your voice, you become a lasting reminder that lingers in their thoughts. Stay with me, for what follows will unveil how your absence isn't merely felt, it becomes something they can't unfeel. Number 8, they sense the void. You departed, and they can't unfeel it. Retreat into yourself. As Marcus Aurelius noted, it's in the nature of the rational mind to find satisfaction in acting rightly and the tranquility it brings. Initially, they didn't notice it. The silence, the space, the stillness where your energy once thrived. They were too preoccupied with moving forward, too distracted, too captivated by new people, new dialogues, and new affirmations. But time has a peculiar way of humbling the mind. What once felt like liberation now feels like emptiness. Not the loud kind that cries out for help. No, this is subtle, internal, a quiet void that shadows them everywhere. And it echoes your absence. It manifests in unexpected ways during conversations that no longer resonate as they once did. In the quiet moments that follow a joke that fails to resonate, within a gathering of individuals who still feel overlooked, that's when the realization strikes. That's when it becomes clear, you are absent. What's even more disheartening is that no one else seems to share the feelings you once had. You see, people assumed that your calm demeanor was something they could easily replicate. They confused your patience with a lack of action. They thought your consistent presence was merely pleasant, nothing particularly remarkable. However, that same pleasantness has now become irreplaceable because what you contributed was far more than just emotional support. It was a form of spiritual anchoring. You didn't merely attend, you provided stability, created a safe space for others, and allowed them to experience their emotions without demanding anything in return. Now that you are no longer there, the absence of that unique energy resonates deeply. Picture being in a space where all the furniture remains, yet it still feels hollow. The lights are illuminated, the music is playing, but something essential is missing. That's the emptiness you left behind. It's not loud or theatrical, but it is unmistakable. And as you continue to remain silent, that absence begins to take on a sharper edge. This isn't about seeking to punish anyone, rather, it's a reflection of the fact that your presence was never something to be taken for granted. They keep checking their phone, secretly wishing to see your name pop up on the screen, but it never does. They open your message thread just to gaze at it, pretending it doesn't affect them before locking their phone again. They visit the same spots you once shared together, overwhelmed by memories that flood back without warning. This isn't just nostalgia. It's the painful realization of something they once had but failed to appreciate, the steady presence they assumed would always be there, the quiet love they didn't fully cherish until it was gone forever. And here's what they never expected: when you left, you didn't make a dramatic exit. You didn't shout insults or plead for answers. You simply walked away without a word. But in truth, you're not entirely gone. Even though you're no longer physically there, your essence lingers, not as a haunting ghost, but as a quiet reminder of who you were, how you made them feel, and the sense of security you brought into their life. Now, they're surrounded by people who speak quickly but listen half-heartedly, who dazzle with charm but leave no lasting impression, who amuse but never truly connect. With every empty conversation and superficial interaction, it slowly dawns on them, you weren't just a passing phase. You were the solid ground they stood on. As the saying goes, what you do matters, and it's up to you to decide what kind of mark you want to leave behind. Indeed, my dear friend, you have created a significant impact. There was no need for you to raise your voice or to demonstrate your value, you embodied it through your actions. Now, your absence speaks volumes, resonating more profoundly than any spoken words could ever convey. This is the profound legacy that silence can leave behind. So, there's no need for you to doubt whether others have noticed your departure. They certainly have. It may not be expressed openly or in public forums, but in their private reflections and moments of quiet, they are acutely aware of it. They experience that deep sense of longing, that subtle shift, that unease which no amount of distraction can alleviate. That feeling is you, it represents the emptiness you have left in your wake. This void is not a result of your perfection, rather, it stems from your authenticity. Authenticity is irreplaceable and can only be cherished in memory. Therefore, if you find yourself pondering whether your choice to step back had any significance, or if your graceful exit made a difference, let this serve as your reassurance: it absolutely did. It continues to matter, and it will persist in its importance because genuine presence does not seek validation, it simply becomes unforgettable. Repeat after me and share your voice in the comments to reassure others they're not alone in this feeling. As I depart, I bequeath serenity. May its resonance linger, a lasting testament. Here's the profound truth: when you navigate life with poised, tranquil confidence, the impact of your presence far surpasses the cacophony of 1,000 words. In essence, what endures in someone's mind isn't the din of noise, but the depth of your presence. It's the elegance with which you moved, unencumbered by turmoil. The steadfastness with which you stood, free from the need for validation. The powerful statement your silence made, articulating what their pride dared not utter. Your leaving wasn't merely an exit, it was the imprint of a lasting legacy. And this kind of energy? It doesn't dissipate with time, it reverberates. If these words have struck a chord within you, pay it forward by sharing them with someone who needs to hear this message of empowerment. Show your support by liking this video and subscribing to continue our journey together, cultivating inner strength and peace. Share your personal affirmation in the comments below. Remember, my stillness conveys a profound message. Let the world be moved by your tranquility. Let them recall the indelible mark of your inner power.